Hello to all of you wonderful people out there. As I'm sure you're aware already, there is a slight glitch with the hold screen. We are looking at the track we are going to, Miami, but it is giving us track information for Silverstone. That was my mistake. I will have a new one going up before the start of the main races tomorrow. I'll have an updated one, so it will have indeed the correct information. However, the tire pace, same 1.3.7, although it changes to the C2, C3, C4 compounds. And it's about 230 meters down to turn 1. I couldn't find an official number, so I went onto Google Earth, laid down some pins where the grid box is and where turn 1 was, and got the measurement that way. So it's about 230 meters, similar to what we had in Silverstone last week. However, it's a much harder braking zone. It's a sharp hairpin right, as opposed to that sweeping right-hander of turn 1. But drivers are just now getting sorted into the lobby here. Clone Richie's and Cornetto joining us for the first time this season. Fraser is going to be taking part in this one, as is Arend. So we've got a few drivers back on the grid that have been a part of the racing of FRS in the past. We're looking forward to a good result. I realized I had not yet done this broadcast thing, so plan ban thinking there. And on the same weekend that we get the NFL starting, we get to invade their track here at the Hard Rock Stadium here in Miami. It's our second visit to the United States here in this FRS season 6. So looking forward to seeing how drivers get on with this brand new track layout. It's an interesting circuit. There's some twisty bits, but they seem to be pretty much all mechanical grip dependent. We're going to probably see some pretty low downforce setups around the circuit today, as it does have a couple of rather long straights that you have to maneuver your way through. But we will relax for just a little bit, about 8 minutes or so, till we get underway officially. On the hour is where we would expect to start this PC Division R race. And we'll just have to see who we get right now. Lobby sitting at 14 drivers. So we've got a decent chunk of people in here. Riemann, Wilco, Ruprath, Zados, Stark, the usual suspects. Gali, Spike, Falstax, Booth is in as well. As we are rather full on the Mercedes front, so Booth is going to sit in the Williams for today. Of course, PC Division R does not factor into the overall team's championship or anything like that, so drivers are free to just kind of take whichever car they so desire. The championship is heating up a bit in some of the divisions. 2-point splitting PlayStation, as you see on screen right now. Of course, we are just beyond the halfway point of the season. This is going to be round 6 that we are kicking off this race weekend. So it definitely got some work to do still in the rest of the season, but the championship fights are going to start coming down to the wire as we start to run out of races in the rest of this here season. I think we're just about getting people in, sitting still at 15 drivers. Xbox is split by only 1 point. Cryptic and LC are going to be, notice how I think we are going to be minus an LC this race weekend in Xbox. So an opportunity for podiums for some drivers, myself included, as I try to get back beyond Habs fan Nick, who picked up a podium last race weekend in Silverstone, as Xbox had their mess of red flags to deal with. We will have the team's championship coming up relatively shortly. It'll be a schedule, then the incorrect track information, and then we'll be able to see what the team's championship is looking like at the halfway point of this season. Of course, if you are new to the FRS, the team's championship takes the constructors' points across all of our divisions that are running, and assigns points to it. So you are not just racing for McLaren in your division, you are racing for the McLarens all around you. And McLaren indeed is the top spot, about 150 points clear of a tight battle between Ferrari and Mercedes for P2. Only about 20 points in that. Red Bull's got some ground to catch up, although still about 50 points or 70 points back of Mercedes, and has a little bit of a gap to Williams behind. The lower reaches definitely have some work to do, but the halfway point of the season, McLaren has shown to be quite strong, especially in the PC divisions. So we will see how they handle it. Of course, once again, the wrong track info. That is not the track we are at. We are indeed at Miami, as you can see by the lovely American flag flying in the background now. 17 drivers are into the lobby at this point. We should be getting underway relatively soon. 4 minutes to go till the official starting time of this race event. And it will be kicking off round 6 of the FRS season. We'll have a break off next race weekend. We finally get our one breather before we head to the final 4 rounds of the season. Hungary, Melbourne, Abu Dhabi, and Brazil. So definitely a collection of tracks aside from Brazil. They've not been visited very much. Miami, Hungary's only been visited once. Australia, I believe, twice. Abu Dhabi, never in a main FRS season. So it should be an interesting end as drivers adapt to less familiar tracks in this one. Couple minutes left to go. We'll just keep an eye out on the lobby and make sure it's all good. Just need Reno to set a car as people are piling in and getting themselves nice and set for this Friday running. Taking a look at some of the sections of the track there, that kind of Mickey Mouse end of the second sector, very tricky going under the overpasses, but of course then this very, very long back straight as you head all the way down to probably one of the slowest corners you'll have to take. It's just Understeer City into this left-hand hairpin, so very tricky. Probably one of the better overtaking opportunities on the track, but this long straight is going to be the reason why some drivers are running pretty low downforce and making it very interesting to drive in this one. I think about 2 minutes left to go here as we are on a day where the date doesn't matter if you're in EU or the USA. It's 9/9 regardless. September the 9th. Usually we get to go backwards in the US. It's month, day, year, and then EU loves the day, month, year. So I think we are just about filling it up in this one. We will just have to wait and see who is ready to rock and roll and see what kind of strategies we have. The hard tire has quite a bit of life we've seen in testing, at least I have. So we'll see what kind of tire strategies drivers are going to opt for in this one. I think we are close to getting underway. Lobby has been updated with the last little bits of adjustments that need to be done, and I think we will be getting to racing relatively shortly here. So just another minute or so and we'll get ready to rock and roll. Keep an eye on the lobby as I think we're pretty much filled up. 17 drivers on the grid today. I think we got pretty much everybody that was going to make it is here, and we will get ready to rock and roll. We're just getting a post in the Discord for any last calls before we get underway. As drivers are starting to ready up and prepare to start this particular race weekend. There it is. The call has been made to ready up for everybody. So we'll get ready ourselves. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to Round 6 of the FRS. We are here with PC Division R, the Reserve Division, as we head back to the United States in the Hard Rock Stadium, Miami in Florida. We'll take a look at this circuit, 5.4 kilometers around, 19 corners with 2 DRS zones, 2 particularly long DRS zones to help promote that overtaking, but of course, some tricky little technical bits in the middle portions of the lap. It's only the second time the FRS has made multiple visits to one nation in the season, the last time being Italy, where we visited both Imola and Monza in Season 4. Now here, taking a look at the first action zones, turn 11, at the end of that first long sweeping DRS straight, a sharp hairpin that leads into that tricky little end of the second sector, and of course, turn 17, that sharp left-hand hairpin at the end of that straightaway. There's no kinks or moves in that one. That'll be your next best overtaking opportunity. As far as the tires go, the mediums are about 0.7 of a lap slower than the softs, and the hards about 1.3 seconds slower per lap. And as far as tire life goes, the softs will go about 10 laps into this race, the mediums 19, and looking at a 29 lap race, there is the possibility of the soft medium one stop. However, the hards can do the entire race distance, so look for drivers that are starting on the softs in dry conditions to go immediately to the hards and go to the end under early safety car conditions. Now, as drivers are just about getting their setups loaded and filtering out, we'll go ahead and grab a very damp qualifying session indeed. So the rain is in fact out here to start this one. Nobody is just about pulling out of the pits. It looks like we got one dot moving. I think that is a Red Bull. Could be somebody else. We'll keep an eye out and we'll see who switches to outlap right away as drivers are starting to filter their way out of the pits. It is indeed Boof in the Williams who's going to be the first driver out onto the track here. So we'll see not only how drivers handle this new circuit, we'll see how they handle it in these wet conditions. So less than an ideal way to start the race weekend. But it is summertime in Miami, and we are essentially getting into hurricane season. So we may be getting quite a downpouring of water if we are not careful in this one. Of course, drivers on the intermediate tires means that DRS is going to be disabled for this qualifying session. We won't have a official weather report for the race just yet, but it does appear that this rain will persist for most of the qualifying session, at least as far as the info that I've got so far. But Boof is working their way through the tricky little middle sector end underneath the flyover highways there and getting the power down. A little wiggle of oversteer on the exit. And as they come down this very long straight, doing a little bit of weaving to get some heat into those tires. We'll jump on board for a quick lap with Boof once they get started. And we will see how they are going to maneuver their way around this brand new Miami International circuit. So easing onto the power as the back end gets very hairy as there's those little crests and dips. Across the start finish line to start the first flying lap of the session. Down into turn 1, find the braking point, rotate the car nice and early, and now through this little switchback section, try and get onto the power as soon as you possibly can to get the car with downforce on and around this right-hand sweeper. Now through the tricky middle portion of the circuit, left-hander, right-hander, and then you've got this long, like triple left-hander, and it requires some trail braking to find the apex for turn 7, as there's some yellow flags around. It looks like somebody's made a mistake of it through turn 4, but Boof seems to have worked their way through that sector quite nicely, setting a purple first sector of course, since they are the first driver out on the circuit. Now, this long, sweeping left-hander, that actually does kind of remind you a little bit of the Jeddah circuit, trying to find a braking point now for this first overtaking opportunity. Hard on the brakes into the hairpin. Now, this little tight right-hander where you just got to kind of modulate your throttle, and now the tricky portion of the circuit. Find the curbs, try not to run over them too much. The car off to the inside, who's had a bit of a nightmare through the middle portion of the lap, and that they're going to have to be sitting there for just a moment until the other cars come through. But now we open the throttle wide open, streak down this back straight, picking up speeds over 320 kph as they look for the braking zone, just past the light box here in this wet conditions. Try not to lock up, and then as the car trundles through that long left-hander, just about gets it through. Little snap of oversteer getting on the power, but they are going to go ahead and set the best first lap, of course. And they are going to be on for a 38-2. Fraser goes purple in the middle sector. We'll grab this Aston Martin Angelo Civic, who has gotten 2 personal bests, but likely not going to challenge the likes of Booth in this one. We'll keep an eye on the track map because it looks like Fraser is just very close behind Angelo Civic here. Angelo's going to set a lap time, goes to a 39.0. Fraser is going to go provisional pole 37.9, so first to dip down into the 37s. Ruprath is going to be next across the line, although on a 41, so quite a ways off of what you would consider to be representative pace at this point. 40.3 for Renovatio. Elliott in the Alpha Tauri has made their way through already. We'll grab new driver whose name is just M, and it looks like they have opted for the pit lane. So Riemann has actually set a purple first sector as Cornetto has retired. It looks like not in the pit lane. It looks like there's been a crash out of the last couple of corners. So that car will get recovered rather quickly, I would assume. As Riemann goes up to provisional P3. Zados is up on the previous best times through the first 2 sectors, showing some improvement over Fraser's best time. And of course, we'll just have to wait and see how the weather decides to behave, whether this rain is going to lighten up in the car's latest on track. Oh, but wide goes Zados, so he's taken track limits there and is invalidated that lap. Boof out of the final corner, 2 personal bests, so improvements through the first 2 sectors. Can they take over provisional pole? They do, a 37.6, so improves by almost half a second and goes and takes that provisional pole. Gali next across the line, P5 overall with their effort. Wilco goes to 6th, and False Tax will be coming out of this hairpin next in the Williams, looking to set the first lap time of their day, and it's going to be just in the 42s, so a relatively unrepresentative time for them. Fraser has abandoned their lap. Next up is going to be Ruprath, who I think is on a 2 personal best run. Yes, they've got 2 green sectors, so they're looking to improve. Where do they jump to? They don't improve in that final sector, so they've not managed to go up any higher. It looks like we tried to grab Renovatio, but they have decided to call it into the pits. We'll grab Arend back on the grid in the Mercedes. A little bit twitch of oversteer as they come out of the corner. 1.2 seconds off of the ultimate pole time. However, that will put them somewhere around the top 5 if they are able to maintain that pace through the final couple of corners. Such is the gap that Boof and Fraser have set to the rest of the field. Angelo Civic, quite a good run, only 0.3 off of Fraser's previous provisional pole time. And Arend is going to set their first lap of the day. Coming across the line, they go to a 39.4, puts them P8. Gali has improved in the first sector, but not in the second, I believe. This is likely them backing out of this run, although they are carrying some good speed. We'll just have to wait and see. Doesn't look like they're full attack into the braking zone, though I could be wrong. Does look to be a little bit lackadaisical through those last couple corners, although yeah, they've moved to the right, pulled into the pit lane, so that will be the end of that run there. False Tax has gone personal best in the second sector, but is also lifted out and is well behind. It looks like we are going to have to try and see who is going to be next across the line. Booth looks like they've got a new set of tires on. Looks like they've got a aggressive lap on the way. We'll see how they manage as they come up through the first sector, where they manage to go as far as their first sector time is compared to their previous best. Just another corner to go. Tough, tricky double left-hander to get the brakes on. Through the first split, they have improved 0.3 of a second. It's not purple, but it is a very, very good lap time compared to their best. So the track seems to be improving a little bit. We'll stay on with Boof as a couple of the drivers are getting ready to go. It looks like Fraser is on an out lap, just a couple of corners ahead of Boof here. I believe that is where that McLaren happens to be. As Boof is creeping up towards the second sector split, it's right as you come out of this Mickey Mouse section. The left-hander open up the throttle, and they have improved a little bit more. 2 personal bests for Boof. They're on to improve by a half second. They could be sniffing the 36s, a 36.9 if they have a very good last sector. They only need to find about another tenth of a second in order to get down there, and they've improved by, on average, 2.5 tenths per sector. So not much to this sector, really just all about the braking and then the traction out of this one hairpin. Otherwise, he's getting a rotate, a little wiggle as he came across the line. He is indeed going to go, no, not quite. He's onto a 37.0, so not quite into the 36s, but very close, 0.06 of a second. We'll grab Zados, who has a purple first sector, so has picked up a lot of time in that first sector. They're now catching up to try and find where they can get to Boof's time. 109.9 is the split, and it looks like they're going to be just ahead of it. No, they are 8 thousandths of a second down, but they are on for a provisional P2 at this stage. So a very good run from Zados in this one. Just needs to get a nice run through the final corners, and they will be on their way to a front row start. 7 minutes left to go, and in this 18-minute qualifying session, and as it stands, Boof holds provisional pole, although Zados, looking to usurp it, comes across the line at 37.039, so it comes up just a couple of thousandths short of the ultimate pace. We'll grab Clone Richie, who's going to be next across the line. And they've gone up into a provisional P6. Spike is working their way out of the hairpin. Going to try and get the power down and get across. 2 personal bests for Spike. Of course, they have yet to set a valid lap time. And they are going to go right up into third, just ahead of Fraser. So a good lap from Spike there. I think we've got M, who is slowed. I think we might just have a bunch of drivers on in laps and out laps. So we will hold tight for just a moment while we wait for the news of some drivers to get on their lap, as I know Fraser and them have already finished. We'll grab Angelo. Yeah, he's 2 seconds down, so he's not looking to do a lap just yet. It looks like Clone Richie is going once again, so we'll grab on to the Alfa Romeo and take a look at how they're going to manage their way around the circuit here, as we're in the middle part of this qualifying session, a little beyond the halfway mark of it. Clone Richie looking to find some improvement through the first 2 sectors, now heading into this tricky little bit. Oh, but takes a little bit too much curb, and that is the end of that valid flying lap. So that will be it for them. We'll grab onto Gali, who's got the other Alpine of Spike all over the gearbox of him. It looks like Gali, though, on a fast lap, has set a personal best through the first sector. We will see how they are going to do coming through this second sector split. Around the corner they go. They are going to be about 6 tenths off of the ultimate pole time. However, 6 tenths off does put them P4. So if they're able to carry this pace, they are improving. They do have the opportunity to go a little bit quicker, and lots of traffic coming down the final straight there. You can see lots of cars in shot. So pitching it through this final left-hander. Well, not final. There is this other left-hander, but really your last big corner. Here comes Gali across the line from a 39.1, goes to a 37.9. So a good improvement for Gali there, puts them P4 ahead of Fraser. Riemann going to be next across the line, goes 4th, pips Gali by just a little bit. Wilco coming down the back straight, next driver on their flying lap. We will see if they're going to be able to find some improvement to get themselves out of P13 and up inside the top 10. So around the final couple of corners they go. Throttle is down. It looks like they are going to be just somewhere in the 38s, 39.2. So they do get into the top 10. Small improvement there. Ruprath on a personal best first sector, now working their way to sector 2. And big snap of oversteer, though, and that has cost them some time. 4 tenths down on Boof's ultimate pace, although they are looking to really jump up the field. It's a significant improvement against their own time. 4 tenths down would put them 3rd. So if they can carry that, although they seem to have lost a little bit of momentum out of that corner, and is going to make it a little bit tougher Renovatio has gone personal best in the second sector. Arend has gone well, although 1.1 off the ultimate pace at the second sector split. Ruprath going to cross the line, go up into P8. We'll see where that puts Renovatio next across the line, goes 10th. Arend going to be next one coming down the back straight. 2 personal best sectors, so improvements for both of their times. And now to try and get through the final corner. Field relatively tight once you get outside the top 5. Across the line comes Arend. He goes up into 8th place overall. So decent lap from Arend. False Tax has not improved through their first sector. We'll keep an eye on their timing screen. Maybe make a jump across if they find some time in the second sector. But it is Ruprath who has gone personal best in the first sector. 2/10 down off of Boof's ultimate pace. So they've still got plenty of time to find. False Tax is creeping up on that second sector split. Renovatio has also gone personal best through the first sector. So we will keep an eye on both of those. False Tax should be right about to cross the sector split. And it looks like they are well off the timing. So they will, five seconds off. They have gone ahead and called that lap in. 3 minutes left to go, so there's still some time to get in, get a fresh set of boots as the weather seems to be holding steady. Not an improvement in the second sector for Ruprath. 4/10 off of Boof's time. Renovatio has gone double personal best, but is 1.1 off of the ultimate top speed now. So he would only jump to about P8 if he finishes that lap. Does Renovatio. We'll see where Ruprath goes. They did find some time in the first sector. 38.4. What is that going to turn into? It's going to cross the line. Stay on a 38.4. Renovatio next across the line. Boof has not improved in the first sector, but has gone purple in the second. But Fraser up big through the first 2 sectors. We'll grab Boof in the Williams at the moment. Does have a little bit of improvement in pocket. We'll see if they are able to find some time through these last corners. Oh, big slide. That's going to cost them a huge amount of time, and I think that's going to be about the lap. Just about done. No improvements to be found thanks to that double purple sectors for Fraser, looking to be the first to go down into the 36s, and he does by 4/10 of a second. A huge improvement for the McLaren driver there. Clone Richie is going to be next across the line. Double personal best for them as we are looking at a barrier. They do improve up to a 38.1, so they've gone up into 8th. Zados now 4/10 off of Fraser's time. That does put them in the ballpark of Boof there, so they are looking to take away a front row start if they can maintain, because my voice is starting to die. So Zados out of the final corner, crosses the line. Are they going to go into the 36s? They do not. 37.039, so just outside of that pace. Now Fraser has gone purple once again in the first sector, showing some very quick pace. Angelo Civic yellow in the first sector or second sector. I would assume they backed out of that one. M catching up to the back of a car that's going to need to get out of the way. It's a Williams. To the inside goes M, and I think they have just about invalidated that line. We'll keep an eye on it. They're creeping their way around. It looks like Fraser has indeed lifted out, but we'll see if M is on a valid lap, if they're going to be able to improve. No, it's already 32 seconds, so they've lost some time through that middle sector and had to back out. They may go once again. We'll grab Clone Richie, though, this time, who has gone personal best in the first sector, although big loss in the second sector, and that's going to be that run just about done. Stark yet to set a valid lap time on these intermediate tires. So no surprise to see personal best there. 1.8 seconds off of the ultimate pace at the moment. That would put them somewhere around a 38.2. So that would just be getting them inside the top 10 between Clone Richie and Arend as it stands now. Zados does not improve through the first sector and is 1.8 out in the second sector. So no improvements for the Red Bull there. There is the Aston Martin of Angelo Civic, who has gone personal best in the first sector. But first, Stark is going to cross the line, go to a 38.3 or 38.6, so it will put him P12. We'll grab Angelo as they come through the second sector, tripping their way through, and we will have to see what Angelo can get done. No improvement in the second sector. They've gone yellow, although still about 0.8 off of the ultimate pace. That will put them on about a 37.2, so they do have some time to find for themselves. Could put them up into the mix of other drivers. Ruprath has gone 2 personal bests through the first 2 sectors. We'll check in with them as they head down across the line. Angelo Civic going to take the checkered flag here. We'll see if they can find some improvement across the line. They do go 4th overall. So improvement to the second row. Ruprath next across the line goes 8th. Renovatio coming out of the final corner goes 10th. Boof is on for 2 personal best sectors. Can they find their way to pip Fraser off the top spot? No purple sectors though, so it's going to be very tough to unseat that McLaren who went all 3 purples. Boof across the line. Does in fact take it by just a couple of hundredths. Goes to 36.642. Gali going to be next across the line. Improves to 4th. Fraser is on a purple first sector, but not improving in the second. We got Spike and Clone Richie, it looks like, nose to tail at this one, and that's going to cost Spike a little bit of time. He's not able to make his way through, and is going to have to. He doesn't have to get out of the way. Does Clone Richie? Up to 7th goes Clone Richie. Spike stays 6th. Fraser into the pit lane, so no improvement there after that second. We'll grab Wilco, who I believe is one of the last ones on an actual flying lap now, and in they go. And that is just about your qualifying session. Riemann no longer on a hot lap. But it looks like Booth has indeed taken away pole position in this one in a moist Miami Grand Prix qualifying session. We've got just 0.03 of a second splitting the top 2 drivers. So quite the battle between those two. So Booth P1, Fraser second. Zados in third is 0.4 behind Fraser, 0.4 ahead of Gali, who pipped Angelo Civic by just 3 milliseconds, 496 to 499. So incredibly close was it for those 2 drivers. So as your provisional official results of qualifying, Boof P1, Fraser, then Zados, Gali. Angelo Civic rounds out the top 5. Spike does not improve on that last run behind Clone Richie. Stays 6th ahead of Clone Richie's 7th start. Goes to 8th. Riemann in 9th, and Ruprath rounds out the top 10. Renovatio, Arend, Captain Wilco, Elliott, M, Falstax, and Cornetto round out your running order as Cornetto retired with a crash before setting a valid lap time. Now we will just have to see what kind of weather is in store for us during the actual Grand Prix. So looking forward to that. Should be underway relatively shortly as we wait for the load in between. And we're presented with these nice, bright, sunny images of the Miami International Autodrome. But we will just have to wait and see if that maintains into the Grand Prix. Was it just the qualifying session that was wet? Or are we going to be damp the entire way through? So we'll keep an eye out as we get loaded in. And I tried to moisten my throat a little bit. But we got news, guys. The rain is indeed coming down once again. So we are damp in the race. And we're going to get some interesting. So usually a learning bed for the drivers to test out tire strategies, setups for the Divar races. Divar does for the later races. Maybe a wet practice session now is really what's going to be going on as the timer is ticking down, and we should be underway relatively shortly. I believe it should be a broadcast formation lap, if I am not mistaken, and I will have to silence the David. We will see as that loads in, and we'll take a look and see what kind of weather we have in store for us in this one. So it is indeed broadcast formation lap. The David Croft is making noise, so I will silence him. Everybody's on intermediate tires to start this one. And we will just have to wait and see once the race genuinely starts what the actual weather is based on my SimHub graphics. Good graphics. But no surprises. Nobody taking the full wet compound tires here in this one as it seems to not be too rainy. There are some tracks where you can zero stop. We saw Angelo Civic do it in Divar last week. Silverstone stayed on those intermediate tires for the entire race distance, managed to pull a podium out of it, and we may keep an eye on and see them go for it. But drivers are just about getting set on the grid, and we will get the game audio back online. And we will see who is going to create shambles into turn 1. Wet tires, cold tires into a very sharp turn 1 where it's hard to get the temperature into them could be interesting. But here we go. We will wait for those 5 red lights to come up and wait for them to go out. And it looks like a good start for Boof on the outside. There's a Ferrari getting away very slowly in the background. What a launch for Zados around the outside, though. He's going to take that position away from Fraser. And there is some shambolicness going on back in the field. We'll try and grab as it looks like some drivers got tangled up. Oh, there's a driver. Gali facing the wrong way is the Alpine. And we'll jump back to this front of the pack. Clone Richie has managed to work their way past. Spike is ahead now and has Stark and the other Mercedes. Riemann making a move down the inside there. Look to be relatively aggressive trying to find their way past the Mercedes. As it looks like things are starting to settle in just a little bit after the start. Fraser on pressuring Dr. Zados now down the straight. Has the inside, has the slipstream. Should be able to just move on past. It's going to be who's bravest on the brakes now into this hairpin. And Fraser looks to have gotten the nose ahead, turns into the corner, and is going to be able to close out on a little wiggle as it Spike in the background trying to make a maneuver past. And it looks like the Red Bull of Riemann has dropped behind now. Angelo Civic, no, Angelo Civic's had to lift out. Does Angelo have some damage from a contact? They've let 2 cars by. Ruprath and Riemann have gone through. And we will just have to wait and see at the end of this first lap who is going to dive in and opt for the pit lane at the early stages of this race. I'll take a moment. We got the weather forecast. Only about 10 minutes worth of rain expected. We should be back to dry running relatively shortly. Now, it is a track that you can do the full race distance on the hard compound tires. So we will see, do drivers opt for the 2-stop, or are they just going to throw on the hards and try and take it to the very end of the race? But for a track we were expecting very tight and to be shambolic, there was a little bit of collisions and contacts as Angelo Civic look into the inside of Ruprath. No there, and it looks like Riemann and Arendt have swapped positions and swapped them back, so a little bit of dueling between those two, but Angelo Civic trying to find their way past the Haas of Ruprath. We'll jump back to that battle as it is indeed ongoing. And through this left-hander, Angelo's a little bit deep. It might give Ruprath the chance to cut it back, but no, Angelo's got that covered and has taken that position. Moves up in 9th place. Now has 1.4 seconds to set off to try and chase down the Red Bull just ahead. Spike has managed to work their way past Clone Richie as Renovatio and Wilco have made a bit of a swap. And Wilco losing tons of ground. They must have had a massive loss of traction there. But we'll jump back towards the front as Clone Richie, Zados, Spike, and Stark are all running in a nice little train here. We'll see if anybody's going to be able to make any kind of maneuvers on this one. But Boof leads the race at the end of that first lap. Fraser just half a second behind. Zados has fallen 1.8 seconds off the back of this lead pack. And as it shook out in qualifying with 2 clear standouts, we are seeing that go on already now in the race. And we'll keep an eye on the delta between Boof and Fraser. There may be a move for the lead of this race attempted relatively soon. Cornetto is having a look at the back of Elliott, who is in the Alpha Tauri today. As Fraser does indeed set the fastest lap of the race, so the pace is there for the McLaren driver. Riemann now actually closing up on the back of Arendt. A little wiggle there coming out of the final corner that might have bought Arendt just enough time to maintain a track position. But this fight will continue on. False tax picking up 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. It is a tricky pit lane entry here, and we will jump now up towards the front of the pack as False Tax has already called it a day in this one. So Fraser's got the release off of the corner from Boof, is in the slipstream. The Boof actually starting to stretch their legs a bit now on straight line, so maybe carrying a significant amount less wing as they've been able to stretch the straight line advantage out down that long straight. Fraser was right on the gearbox and not able to make it. Spike on the inside of Dr. Zados down into turn 11 and should have that one just about done. Spike, a quick driver, should be battling with those drivers at the top of the timing sheets relatively well. So they've got some ground to catch up, 2.3 seconds the margin, but they should get involved with that battle relatively soon. We'll jump back to Angelo Civic and Riemann as they are starting to get relatively close to each other. Riemann carrying that time penalty for track limits already around this city circuit, and is putting the pressure on the Mercedes of Arendt, who is 2.5 seconds off of their Mercedes teammate of Stark at this stage. Stark looking to try and close up to none other than Clone Richie in this one. So looking to close the gaps up and get the dueling a little bit closer. Spike sets the fastest lap of the race, 37.0. So we are actually getting relatively close to those qualifying times already in this one with heavier fuel loads. Looks like Cornetto and Elliott have had a little bit of a swapperoo position-wise. I've actually lost track of Elliott. Where's he gone? Got a yellow flags, and oh, big crash! Who is that that's around? Arendt has gone around, so there was a crash there through that first sector, and it looks like Clone Richie Arendt have tangled with each other, and that is unfortunate there. Well, didn't get a good look at it. Although I would guess that they were trying to make an overtake, and the overtake did not stick from Clone Richie's point of view. We'll just have to see if it gets reported. Not typically, races don't get a lot of reports in the Div R division just because there's not any real points associated with it. Drivers are still expected to try and maintain themselves as if they're in a normal race, but it is definitely proving to be tough sometimes. Gali, looking to make their move beyond M, has gotten it done and is now looking at the back of the Ferrari of Renovatio as they start to work their way back through the field after getting collected on lap 1. They seem to have avoided any kind of damage that would require a pit stop, or at least it's not damaging enough that they would come in early. We are starting to get to about 5 minutes, the margin, to when we should expect the rain tires to come off, and Gali's got a very good run off of the final corner before this long straight. Has to tuck back in, though. It looks like Renovatio carrying some good straight line speed. Gali, though, going to maybe have a look on the brakes. No, tucks back in, and while it looked like Gali had gotten a very good release off of that corner, they just kind of stalled out, and of course, without the DRS to help, makes those moves even tougher. But Fraser still about 7/10 off the back of Booth. Spike now starting to get to within that 1 second margin. We'll keep an eye on the battles as they develop up and down the field. It's actually gotten very close between Fraser and Booth, and Fraser seems to get a good launch off of that corner. Turn 8, I believe it is, but Booth, once again, with straight line speed, just making the moves, and it's, it seems to be relatively across the board. You've got Booth, Stark, you even got Renovatio, essentially Mercedes drivers, main Mercedes drivers, having good straight line speed, although Gali has snuck their way through and is now looking to attack Elliott into this next zone. They're going to tuck in, grab a little slipstream, and Elliott is actually going to hold on to that position for the time being. So Gali has managed to get their way past Renovatio. Fraser was unable to get past Booth, and almost contact, almost nose to tail was Renovatio into the back of Gali there, but it looks like they have just about avoided that contact there, and they will continue to press on. And now Gali's got to try and clear the Alpha Tauri of Elliott ahead. We'll grab the onboards for Gali here. Nope, that is the wrong one. We'll grab the correct. Oh, big snap of oversteer. We caught it, and that's Elliott out of the session. Elliott snapped on the oversteer there, and that is going to be a full safety car deployed. Right as we got on board, snap of oversteer, Gali trying to make the move, and there was just nowhere to go. And straight into the wall it was. Now, what are drivers going to do? We will keep an eye on the pit lanes and see if anybody is going to come in. There is a car coming in. Cornetto is into the pit lane for Aston Martin. Take a look at the weather. We are about 5 minutes away from it drying up and starting to for the rain to stop. It is a totally new track, so we don't know what kind of drying characteristics it has, how quickly it dries up or not. But Booth's still in the lead of this race. It looks like just the drivers at the back, Cornetto, Clone Richie, Arendt, have come into the pit lane. Grab a look at the tires, and they have indeed gone for the dry compound. So, Cornetto, Clone Richie on a set of hards that will go to the end of the race. Arendt is on a set of medium tires that may make the end of the race, depending on how many laps we stay under safety car conditions. We're still driving to the Delta as it stands. None of the leaders have come into the pit lanes. But we'll grab the front of the pack now. We'll actually grab the onboard. And, you know, I don't see any more streaks of rain on the halo, so it does appear that the rain has, in fact, stopped. Booth having to slow down to respect that delta down into the final corner. Hairpins are where you can really overrun that delta, and Booth is coming to the pit lane. So into the pits comes the race leader. It looks like Fraser, Spike, Zados have all opted to come in. Riemann has stayed out. Stark is in. Angelo Civic is in. So looks like Riemann has stayed out on the dry compounds. And we'll take a look, and it's a mixture, mediums and hards. Ruprath has also stayed out. So has Renovatio. And it looks like Angelo is into the pit lane. So Booth, Spike, Zados, and Angelo all onto the hard compound tires. Fraser and Stark onto the mediums. Gali is in and onto the mediums. So the only drivers left out now on the intermediate tires, as Wilco is into the pit lane as well, are the top three. Riemann, Ruprath, and Renovatio, which they all have R's in their names, which is quite a nice coincidence. But Wilco has come in and... No, Wilco has had a moment. Wilco has come in and fitted a new set of intermediate tires. So Wilco onto a set of inters, I would have to assume that was not intentional. So they are going to have to make another stop in this one, unfortunately, to get a set of dry tires on, as the weather is supposed to remain dry for the remainder of this race. So the rain has stopped. Now we just need the track to dry out. Riemann leads from Ruprath Renovatio. Boof is your net leader of this race on the hard compound tire. Fraser P2, Spike net third, and Dr. Zados and Stark rounding out the net top five as they close up to the safety car train. Angelo Civic has got a little bit of time to make up, as does Gali, who's coming out of the sharp left-hander before the long back straight at the moment. So, oh no, Angelo Civic has picked up a drive-through for falling too far back. They've sat too far off. That 10-second timer counts down. And now come in the three leaders. So Riemann, Ruprath, and Renovatio all coming in. That's going to cost them quite a bit of track position, having made this stop one lap later. Now you hope that Angelo makes sure to wait until it's a green flag before attempting to serve this drive-through. M picks up a 5-second speeding in the pit lane penalty, so drivers are starting to pile up penalties here and there. And looks like we're probably going to wait one more lap before we get ready to go back to green flag racing. The safety car is out. 8 laps done in this 29-lap race. And all drivers are now onto the dry compounded tires. So after a damp intermediate qualifying and intermediate start of this race, looks like Booth leads from Fraser. Now Spike, Dr. Zeus, and Stark making up the top 5. Gali is P6 in this one. Riemann 7th. Angelo Civic is 8th. Ruprath 9th. Cornetto in 10th. As Renovatio and Cornetto make contact, and that is not what you should do. So we'll take a look here at the gainers and losers. Clone Richie down 8 places, has had the roughest day. Cornetto up 7, has made some moves, is into the points paying positions now. And it does look like the safety car is going to be out for one more lap. As it has yet to be called in, and we're coming through the last couple of corners. So Clone Richie's got some time to catch up to the pack before we resume to green flag racing. And we should hopefully get a little bit of sun, but it looks like with the amount of time safety car is out, both medium and hard tires should be able to get close to the end of the race. Hard tires definitely will make it. Medium tires should be able to get right on about to the end of the race. So we will see what they manage to do at the end of this one. As there are some drivers swapping. Why is Stark dropping down the field? Illegal overtakes everywhere. It looks like things are getting relatively sorted out again. But as we see it almost weekly in Div R and Div 4, somebody does not maintain their place in line, overlaps, and creates just a cacophony of problems. Clone Richie is almost to the back of the pack, just a couple of corners behind now, so should be able to restart this one to Green Flag Racing. Riemann's carrying 3 seconds, Renovatio and M carrying 5 seconds, and Angelo with that unfortunate drive-through. Said he was going full out trying to catch the pack, but still was unable to get closed up onto the back of the pack in time. It felt after falling off of it, so he did pick up that drive-through. As we get to the end of the second sector here, we should see that message come in that the safety car is in this lap relatively shortly. At which point, Boof will become the de facto safety car and the leader of this race and lead the pack down the back straight. So we'll keep an eye out. Now with the length of this back straight, we may see a later safety car in call than some of the others. And there it is. Safety car is in this lap, so just beyond the second sector split. And the safety car is indeed this lap. Will bring up the throttle telemetry. So we can see when Boof does indeed decide to go. I would expect he could realistically just try and pin it out of the hairpin, although it is a tricky traction zone there. Lots of tire warming going on to try and get the tires heated up. Now around the hairpin he goes. Still maintaining, short shifting, and it looks like they're holding ground, and now it looks like they've just about got the power down. No, they're just kind of gradually accelerating. They've got to go at some point, and there they've gone now. So not the cleanest restart. Angelo's going to serve that drive-through right quick. Going to dive into the pit lane and make it a quick drive-through. Not the cleanest restart. It didn't really maintain a consistent pace all the way in. It was kind of a gradual acceleration. Oh, there's yellow flags. Arend is around, it looks like, towards the back, and I've hit caps lock. And Arend has gone around in turn 1, made a mistake. So we'll grab the middle of the pack here, see if we can catch anything going on. It looks like Riemann is in position to try and make an attack on M, while also having Clone Richie all over the gearbox. And now this is where Fraser's going to have the advantage on Boof now in this dry running. It looks like Riemann's sneaking their way through, or falling behind rather, of Clone Richie, as Clone Richie now is going to be the one trying to attack M. Of course, with the safety car, 3 laps before we have DRS enabled, and now that the rain has stopped, we should have the DRS enabled relatively soon. But this is a tight battle for the last points paying position at the moment, and Clone Richie is working M quite hard on this one. Grab the lead of the pack as Fraser is in the slipstream, losing ground to Boof. So Boof must be running a very, very low downforce kind of setup. Just as they get in the braking zone, we'll check in with this other battle once again. Clone Richie having a look to the outside, now maybe the inside, now under braking. Sends it down the inside, does Clone Richie, in contact between the sister teams, the Red Bull and Alpha Tower. I think Riemann has gone just too deep on that one. It looked like a real big send from Riemann, and there's been contact as he went flying past the Alfa Romeo. Now, Cornetto on the back of Gali here is going to look to try and make another move up the field as Angelo Civic is gone by Arend, who has come into the pit lanes likely to fix some damage. So Cornetto on the outside, and you're having a little look on Gali there, but it's not an easy overtaking opportunity there. So sticks in, settles down, and now we will wait. The next lap, we should see that DRS become enabled once again, as Cornetto has lost some ground to Gali and is now going to have Clone Richie all over the back of them. So we'll stay with this fight as it is, although we're keeping an eye on the battle between Stark and Zados, which is actually closing up very rapidly as the Mercedes catches the Red Bull. Deep goes Zados into that braking zone, although he seems to have carried some decent pace. Stark, though, right on the back end. This is a battle between compounds. Stark is running those medium tires while Zados is on the hards. So maybe a little extra grip for Stark in this one. And of course, we know Stark's penchant for running low wing settings. But Zados actually growing the gap a little bit there. Maybe a heavy deployment. We'll drop back now to Clone Richie, who is on the gearbox of of Cornetto now, who has lost touch a little bit with Gali, starting to stretch their legs. It looks like they're not quite going to be able to make it. Crossing the line here, Boof sets fastest lap of the race on the hard compound tires, and I would expect we should see DRS enabled relatively shortly, and indeed DRS is enabled. Cornetto and Clone Richie swapping positions on their way in. And it looks like it's going to hold. We'll get back to the battle at the front between Fraser and Boof once they reach this next DRS detection point. We will see what kind of attack Fraser is able to put on. But oh no, Fraser's gone around. Fraser has lost it. So no attack is forthcoming. Fraser has to now wait, since the field is still relatively bunched up, has to wait for a safe opportunity to rejoin. It's going to be after this other McLaren, and all the way down to 13th goes Fraser. So we'll grab Stark, who's now got that DRS on Zados in front, using that slipstream, catching up. Is he going to have a look to the inside? Not quite there. Zados does leave some space on the inside as Clone Richie has gotten by Gali using that DRS attack. And side by side they're going. Oh, Clone Richie off the track to the outside. Gali's still trying to stick it out around through this middle sector, and you just have to kind of slot back in this sector. But oh, contact! And into the barriers goes Clone Richie. A little bit of an early braking that Gali was not ready for. Clone Richie just trying to get off the track, and now we'll jump back ahead. There's a local yellow. No safety car or VSC. Stark has gotten a very good run. Zados all the way to the inside of the track to defend now to the inside of the hairpin. Side by side they go on the exit. Space is left, and Stark not able to quite get that job done. They are losing ground to Spike and Boof ahead. But Clone Richie definitely going to have to come in for some repairs after that one. Stark makes the move on Zados into turn one, but has gone to the inside, but given up the outside to Zados. And once again, they are just kind of even Stevens holding ground into this one. I forgot there's actually 3 DRS zones. There is a short DRS zone down the main straight that I often forget about because it is so short. But Fraser and Clone Richie into the pit, so Fraser has actually picked up damage with that spin that he's had as well. So not great news for them, but not great news here for the Red Bull, as Stark is going to have DRS flip that rear wing open, and now he's going to use all that extra straight line speed. Riemann has gotten past M already before even the DRS deployment zone. And Stark has got that move done on Zados. Near contact as they head into this more tricky middle sector. But it looks like Stark has got that job done. There is another DRS zone upcoming relatively quickly, so Stark does have to make sure to hold on to this position as they come down the next main straight. We'll keep an eye on the delta of Riemann and M as they are getting relatively close to each other, working their way through the Mickey Mouse section. And it looks like Zados does have some straight line speed. Stark is going to stay to the inside defensive, and Zados is going to breeze by Riemann, making his way past M as they're going to go to the inside. And it looks like side by side Stark and Zados dueling it out, but it looks like Zados has managed to snag that position off of the Mercedes, and we will go once again to continue this fight. Riemann has cleared M now. I don't expect to have an opportunity to kind of run away. Spike has closed within the DRS range of Boof, so we will get up to that battle if it remains at that 1 second margin into the next detection point. And it looks like it's just about hovering. Stark and Zados really the closest battle on track, and they are going to be duking it out side by side relatively frequently, I would guess. I realized I left the speedometer on the screen literally since the restart a while back. But Spike did not have DRS on Boof this time, so no overtake forthcoming for them. Rear wing flips open for Stark, who I think is just going to have to find a way past, maybe down a second DRS straight, because Zados does have plenty of pace to re-attack. He's going to try and go around the outside, just about stays in bounds. A slick move from the Red Bull, using that momentum to go around the outside, but now they are side by side through this section. Yeah, you've got to just yield out. There's no way to stay there, and these are the worst possible cameras for this battle. So I guess we'll stay with the Red Bull, looking at... There we go, finally, some actual camera work. So, Stark once again with the DRS open this time. Zados making some aggressive moves to try and break the slipstream. His allowed moves. And to the inside goes Stark, to the outside goes Zados. Side by side they will go. Who was ahead at the detection point? It's going to be very close between those two as Cornetto is making their way past Gali. And it looks like the Red Bull has maintained that DRS through the detection point. So once again, we reset and go again. Golly, you're closing up on Cornetto. Cornetto with that red light flashing on the rear of the car, though. So not a lot of battery left for that Aston Martin to defend from the Alpine. Stark is still very close to the back of Dr. Zados once again, trying to find their way past. And I would assume that Zados probably has a pretty low downforce setup running as well, considering the parity between their straight line speeds through the DRS detection points. But here comes Stark once again in the slipstream. Rear wing flips open at that late DRS activation point. Is he going to try and go to the outside this time? Zados defends to the inside. Stark to the outside. He's fully ahead this time. Has gone a little deep under braking. And it looks like Zados just has that little bit of extra grip into that hairpin that Stark could really use now through the slow section underneath the overpass. As there's yellow flag, it looks like Arend has made a mistake on the exit of the pit lane. They've got to get moving again, and it looks like they have. Down the back straight we go, and one more time, this fight continues between the Mercedes and Red Bull. Stark picking kind of the middle of the track, daring which way for Zados to go. Zados to the outside. Stark once again defends to the inside. A little tight on the entry, and he's cost some time because he's had to run a little wide. There was still some space on the outside, but now Ruprath is getting involved, it would appear, with this fight. And I think that Zados just didn't expect Stark to run out that way. I think Stark may have over-defended to the inside. We'll grab this battle here, Gali, Riemann, and Cornetto as it continues to rage on. As Gali, once again, not able to get past the Aston Martin ahead of Cornetto. And now Riemann is getting involved, much like the battle between Stark and Zados. Ruprath is now involved with that little bit of contact. The gap stabilized at the front, about 1.3 seconds consistently over the last couple of laps, so it doesn't seem that Spike is making any significant inroads into the lead of Boof at this stage. Gali going to have to try and hold off Riemann through this tricky couple of left-handers. Zados and Stark still coming down the back straight. We'll grab a look at them as they come down to the braking zone. It looks like, though, Stark is going to hold that position. We'll grab now one slot back, Gali and Cornetto. Gali to the outside, Cornetto defending to the inside. On the brakes they go, Gali around the outside, and it's going to switch to the inside. So it looks like the outside is actually the better overtaking opportunity into turn 11 as opposed to covering the inside, carrying that momentum and having it switch to the inside for that double right-hander. But a little bit further up the road once again, we'll kind of switch back and forth between these battles consistently as Zados and Stark once again side by side. Stark this time taking to the outside as Zados goes up the inside. Stark running all the way out to the outside of the track. Should be behind at the detection point, and we should see that Mercedes rear wing flip open this time. So Stark has managed to take the position. There's yellow flags behind Riemann, and looks like Riemann has crashed in this one. So Riemann has lost the car. Fraser has had a disconnect, although he's had a rough day to begin with. But Riemann in that fight now fallen off of Gali and Cornetto. Zados, once again, right on the back of Stark. Ruprath has fallen about a 1 second off, so is starting to lose the DRS as these guys don't fight as much into every corner. But looks like he may have snuck in just at the detection point is Ruprath, so he should see that rear wing flip open on the Haas as well. Down the straight comes the Mercedes and Red Bull line astern. Slipstream for Zados. Stark to the racing line, to the inside. To the outside goes Zados. Stark defending the inside once again. Zados carrying so much speed around the outside of that corner. I think that's absolutely the maneuver to take the position through turn 11 is that outside line. I think that's better than the inside line. Looks like Cornetto and Gali have just about leveled off, hanging out, enjoying their drives line astern. Gali's got about 6 seconds to catch the next pack. And now Stark going to have to try and make an attack on Dr. Zados this time. It looks like Zados comfortable holding the outside line, stays on the racing line while Stark looks to the inside. It looks like Stark had to back out of that move. It got very nip and tuck there. Although Stark has gotten a very good exit off of that hairpin and is now carrying some good speed. Plus that DRS. Can he make a lunge up the inside into turn 1? He's alongside, under braking they go side by side into the corner. And it looks like Zados is just going to sweep around the outside. May have a little bit more grip, it seems, than Stark to really carry the speed around the outside. And that may be the difference between the wings of the two drivers. But Spike not making any ground on Boof, who is leading at the 18-lap mark. Just 11 laps left to go in this race, as there is a nice tight battle for the final podium position between these three drivers, Zato, Stark, and Ruprath, all in a row here. As you can see, that Haas is now getting very much involved with this fight. That Haas has tremendous overspeed. Stark swinging the outside, 3 wide. They're going to go down. It looks like the Haas has got the inside. Stark darts to the outside under braking, and he's going to hold the inside, and that may just shuffle Zatos to the back side of it. Stark trying to find a way past the Haas in front, nearly nip and tuck, nose to tail through it. And this, I think this is what Stark needs. He needs to put a car between him and Zatos. Ruprath had a very opportunistic move down the back straight to take away that position, but now is going to be under attack from 2 drivers with DRS, and this time Zatos picking up that double slipstream from the 2 cars ahead. So now down into the corner. Ruprath taking to the inside. Stark to the outside. Stark is going to try and stick it out around the outside of Ruprath, and it is getting very close with the Red Bull as well. And it looks like Zatos is going to follow Stark through. Now up, go into a position, and Ruprath switching it immediately to the inside, looking to have a counter attack, but not going to make it wide. Goes the Red Bull. Ooh, there's going to be contact between the two, nearly, as they go side by side. And now Ruprath once again shuffled to the back of this train. Stark has to try and just run away. 7/10 the gap. He may have enough ground in him to at least fend off a DRS attack down into turn 11. But tremendous racing between these 3 drivers, getting down to the nitty-gritty of this race. So we'll keep an eye on this battle. I am keeping an eye on the timing as Angelo Civic is catching up to the back of M. And Angelo Civic, I will actually grab Angelo Civic because he's got a tremendous run. He's going to have DRS, it looks like, down into the braking zone. The 3 that we've been watching so far are going to stay line astern and just settle in. Now, Angelo has lost a little bit of ground in the DRS, catching it back up, so didn't get quite the exit that they needed, but they're not going to make that move happen. So we'll grab this 3-car battle for the podium places. Stark, Zatos, and Ruprath once again, and Zatos about 7/10 of a second off the back of Stark. Is it going to be enough for Stark to maintain that position? And it looks like it is. So it close to about 4.5 tenths, so about 3 tenths the margin that DRS gets you on that back straight, at least as these 2 drivers are dueling it. And once again, Stark is going to have a little bit of a short breather, but Ruprath is falling off the back of Stark, and that's just going to give Zatos a chance to dial up for another re-attack in this one. We'll grab the battle. Angelo Civic around the outside of M. DRS is open down into turn 1. M is just going to tuck in and is not going to be able to make any kind of move stick. Spike starting to put some pressure back onto Boof. It is 1 second again, as they're starting to close back up to that fight, but not quite in the DRS range just yet. We'll catch back up with this fight as they're about to hit the DRS zone down into turn 11. The left-hand kink of turn 10. Flat out, rear wing is open for the Red Bull, and Ruprath has fallen outside of that 1 second margin. They do have DRS at the moment, but now it's going to be back to that 2-man duel between Zatos and Stark, and Zatos really putting the pressure on to Stark. Spike has gotten inside the DRS of Boof now. It is 1 second the margin, and they are making some gains down the back straight. So maybe tire life starting to come around. We'll keep an eye on it. Stark the highest up on the medium tire, the only car on the medium tire, as everybody else has either put on the hard tire at the safety car or made an extra stop. And Zatos to the inside, Stark to the outside as they go side by side into the hairpin, and Stark into the pit lane. Stark getting off those medium tires, unhappy with their performance, and is going to make the change now. So Stark done with that battle. Into the pit lane they go. They're going on to a set of soft tires. Cornetto is into the pit lane as well. An interesting choice from them. So we'll keep an eye on this battle up at the front then as it is settling in. So Stark is going to give up 5 places to go on to the soft compound tires to get to the end. I don't think he thought the mediums could get there and had to pull the trigger. So it is about the driving window of the softs to be quick. They can go about 10 laps, but they start to lose performance at about lap 7. So Stark on pace to do about 8 laps has got some ground to catch up. He's got to make his way past M, got to catch Angelo, got to catch Gali. Sounds like quite a lot of wheel spin out of that corner for the Alpine, as they are both making their way past Arend in the Mercedes, who has had a tough day in his return to the track, has fallen a lap down now. But pressure starting to build for the race leader, Boof. Ruprath also starting to close up into the DRS zone of Dr. Zato. Spike setting the fastest lap of the race, a 31.0. Although I would expect that Stark should eat into that relatively aggressively. However, there's some yellow flags and a full course yellow. Has somebody gone into the barriers? It looks like Renovatio has indeed crashed it into the wall. And with the way those tires are just kind of spinning around, no, he's kept the car going. So it is just a virtual safety car. It is a full course yellow, but no full safety car is out. And Renovatio does have that damaged front wing, and now the gap between Spike and Boof has gotten quite close. M has picked up a speeding in the pit lane penalty. Stark will work their way past, so M having a tough-ish day on the penalty front. And Stark will also go by Angelo Civic. We're back to green flag racing as we return to the fight. And DRS immediately gets re-enabled. Riemann is going to make their way past the couple in the pit lane as well. So is Wilco and Cornetto. Frazier picking up a speeding in the pit lane penalty. A tricky pit entry, but one you definitely have to be careful of. Now, Stark has 8 seconds to try and catch up to Gali ahead, as Renovatio is another victim of a speeding penalty in the pit lane. Stark, 34 seconds off the race lead, has to make up 18 seconds to try and get back to his original race position after making that pit stop. So we'll just have to see what Stark has in the tank and what Spike and Boof have in the tank here as it gets down to the nitty-gritty, down to the wire between these two drivers. Lap 23 of 29 underway, and looks like Ruprath has made their way past Dr. Zatos. Although if the battle between Stark and Zatos was any indication, this battle is far from over. So we'll take a quick look while the leaders are working their way through a kind of follow the leader portion of the track. And once again, Zatos is just going to tuck down and settle in. Stark already making some inroads on Galid. The gap now down to 6.8 seconds. We'll grab the lead pack once again. 7/10 as they cross the DRS detection and now the DRS activation. See that Alpine logo disappear as it flips open out of view. And Boof looks to be in a position to hold that place once again as they come down into turn 11. Now Zatos and Ruprath one more time, lying astern as they come down this DRS straight. Rear wing flips open for the Red Bull. Looks like a little bit of steering adjustment need to be done on the Haas, and I think that's going to give Zatos some extra overtaking speed. Early lift out, manages to just hang in position. It looks like they are going to choose to go down the next DRS straight for the attack. And once again, Boof is just outside the attacking radius from the Alpine of Spike there. So Dr. Zatos, closest battle on track. Stark now 5.6 seconds off of Gali. Clone Richie setting the fastest lap of the race, although I would expect Stark to be in with a shout to set that fastest lap as well relatively soon. As Ruprath around the outside of Zatos into the hairpin. Side by side they go. Just about enough space, and carrying that extra speed, or attempting to carry that extra speed, is Ruprath, but Zatos indeed gets back out ahead and is in position once more. We'll drop back a little bit further. Cornetto making a move on the Red Bull of Riemann. So Red Bull's in fights all over the place. And Riemann going to duck in, try and grab some slipstream off of Cornetto, but won't be enough to overcome that DRS effect. Now hard on the brakes into this slow, tricky corner. Difficult to get on the power through that corner as well. But now Stark up just 4.6 seconds off the back of Gali, and he's still got a lot of ground to make up. He's got to try and close 8 more seconds if he gets past Gali in this one to get back up to those podium places. So it was a gamble. It was an interesting choice. I think Stark may have actually stayed probably 4th or 5th. If they had remained on the medium tires, even if there was significant fallout, they may have lost ground to Zatos and Ruprath. It's going to be close for them to catch up to Gali as Fraser takes the fastest lap of the race, unsurprisingly, on those soft compound of tires. So Cornetto and Riemann once again into battle as the DRS flips open, this time for the Red Bull, as Zados has actually cleared a bit of ground to Ruprecht. It's just about a second now between those. And now Riemann and Angelo Civic are getting relatively close to each other behind this battle as well. So should be very interesting as we get to the tail end of this race. And we'll just have to wait and see. Spike has taken a pretty hefty chunk out of Booth here. It's the closest it's been in several laps. So down to just about 0.6 of a second, 0.7 now, as they work their way through the middle sector. Wilco has picked up a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. I'm sure that is an instant penalty for jumping that curb since it cuts directly across. Angelo Civic makes their way past Riemann. So both Aston Martins have cleared the Red Bull of Riemann in this one. And Spike one more time, just not in the position to make an attack on the Williams ahead. Laps are running out for this battle. Now we'll grab a look at the soft shod Stark as they are pitching their way through the middle portion of the lap, well, really the early portion of the lap. Where can they find their break point? A little wide on the entry. Looks to have mostly gotten away with it. Wilco and M are just coming out of the pit lane side by side. Down to turn one, we'll grab this fight as well. And well wide of the apex is Wilco, nearly losing the car as they got out onto the marbles there. So tough crowd there. We'll jump ahead as no team orders for Angelo Civic or Cornetto, both in the Aston Martin. I would assume that Angelo Civic is going to have a proper run at his today teammate. Ruprecht has gotten back within 1 second and around the outside. A little bit of a lock. Oh, and around they go. Angelo Civic, just a little bit of a rear lock. There is yellow flags in the first sector as well. I believe that is the race leaders coming through some lapped traffic. We'll grab Zados and Ruprecht as, once again, Zados just carrying the speed on the outside lines, seeming to be the move to be done. Spike still hovering right at about that 1 second margin. As is this battle between Ruprecht and Dr. Zados. Stark now just 2 seconds behind Gali in this one. We'll actually grab, since they should be coming, oh no, they've just started a new lap. So once they get to the tail end, we will see what kind of laps they're doing, although Stark really already eating into the gap of Gali ahead. Now only 1.4 seconds the margin between these two drivers. Fraser continues to set fastest laps of the race on those soft compound tires, relatively unsurprisingly. We're down to just a few laps left to go, and around is one of the Aston Martins again in Sector 1. It looks like Angelo Civic has had another off. They are returning to the race as they are going. So it looks like they've avoided some damage because of that big runoff. But it is going to be tough for them. We'll grab Stark, who is really hounding Gali now. 1.1 seconds the margin as they come. It's not quite going to be close enough to be in the DRS range. He was about 1/10 of a second short. But Stark may be able to take this P5 position on track and get by Gali on these soft tires. As long as the performance is still in them, he's got the shot to get around him. And it looks like on the exit of the corners and the round goes our end. We will likely see him getting back to racing speed as the next pack of drivers comes through. It looks like he'll be up before this group begins, but now it's within a second. Stark hovering right at that 1 second margin to Gali ahead, 1.03 to 0.9. So very, very close. Only a little bit in it between the two. The leaders are still relatively close to each other. Just about a second gap. Same with Ruprecht and Dr. Zados. It's not quite close enough to be making any kind of attacks. And they are kind of been holding steady at that stage. So we'll see. Ruprecht has closed up to about 4.5 of a second under braking into turn 11. We may grab that as Stark now has his first dose of DRS off the back of Gali. So we'll keep an eye on this battle of Ruprecht and Zados down into the hairpin. And then we'll grab Stark and see what kind of ground he's going to be able to make up on the Alpine of Gali ahead. They're working through the slowest section of the track where mechanical grip is at a premium. And it looks like Stark has got the numbers done. So Ruprecht closing on Zados. Is he going to have a chance to make a move? Not quite. So we'll jump back and see the rear wing flip open in the Mercedes, closing up on this Alpine at a rate of knots. Ruprath has attempted to make a move on Zados, but has not come off. Stark to the outside of Gali. It looks like Gali is going to hold that position ahead. Stark will slot in right behind, and he will make his second attempt down into turn 1. DRS open once again. The overspeed from those soft tires. Is he going to have a look down the inside? No. He's settled in. Not made a move. We'll jump up ahead to Spike and Boof. Penultimate lap of the race here, and it has gotten as close as it has been. Spike must have just been biding their time, sitting right on the edge. And now we will get back to racing. Spike has picked up a 3-second time penalty. He's jumped the curb. And that is going to just about all but secure the race win for Boof if he's not going to pick up any track limits penalties. Ruprath and Zados now side by side coming into turn 11, and it looks like Ruprath has got the nose ahead. We'll jump back to this fight between Spike and Boof as they go side by side into turn 17. Last big overtaking opportunity. Boof holds the car ahead, but Spike has gotten a tremendous run on the back of the Williams. We're also keeping an eye on the timings for Stark as the final lap of the race is started. We'll grab not this camera from Stark. We'll grab this camera as Zados and Ruprath are working their way down close to turn 1. So as they fight up, Stark may have just about run out of tires at this point. So Stark may be just not having enough left in those soft tires. Gully a little bit wide of the apex. Stark may have a chance to re-attack. Zados now on the gearbox of Ruprath as they've started the final lap of the race, and they are going to duel it out. Spike is within 0.4 of a second of Boof, so all over the track is dueling. Zados pulling to the outside, looking to make a move, get a nose alongside Ruprath, but has to back out of it. Spike and Boof down into turn 11, and Spike has got that position, although Boof has Spike has the inside. Boof trying to hang out around the outside. The double left-hander wide of the track is Spike, so he will have to yield that place one more time. We'll grab this pair as they come through the DRS zone, and it looks like Ruprath is just about out of battery. So down to the inside, defending is Ruprath. Sweeping around the outside is the Red Bull of Dr. Zados. Is he going to be able to carry the speed on this last lap? And it looks like Ruprath is just going to hold it off. Stark now with the overspeed on Gali and is able to go to the outside. Can he carry that speed around the outside? Side by side with Gali. It looks like a little bit of contact as there wasn't enough space for Stark to avoid the wall. And oh no, Spike and Boof side by side. And across the line, and Spike cutting the corner, I think has fallen behind. So Boof is going to win the Grand Prix here, suddenly with a 20-second time penalty. I don't think that's great news for Spike here. Zados and Ruprath look to have gotten tangled up and lost quite a lot of time. Stark actually is pushing hard to get past Ruprath. Is there damage between those two in the final corners? And it looks like Zados and Ruprath had an incident that lost them tons of time. Zados actually would have come ahead of Spike for the penalties unless there was that incident. But across the line, Ruprath does take home that third place, that final spot on the podium. Zados 4th, Stark 5th, and Gali 6th. Cornetto and Riemann going to be next across the line in the Aston Martin and Red Bull, dueling the whole way home. And they will remain as they are running. They both had the same time penalties. Angelo Civic has dropped it on or at least gone deep on the exit of the hairpin, and that is going to allow M to cross the line. 5-second time penalty. That will move them to 10th as Angelo Civic goes up to 9th. Frazier crosses the line in 11th. Wilco comes home in 12th, and Renovatio 13th. Definitely an interesting end to that one, as Spike looked to have just jumped across the the curb to take away the on-track win from Boof. But it was indeed a win for Boof as the provisional standings have gone in this one. And a little bit of wet weather. The racing is pretty decent, honestly, around Miami. There's a lot of attack and re-attack with the DRS zones. Quite happy to see that today. So looking forward to how it pans out for the rest of the race weekend. And to the top step of the podium. Goes the in the Williams booth. So we'll see if he can replicate that performance in the PC Division 1 race tomorrow. Shown pretty good pace. Spike showed very good pace as well. Frazier banging in fastest lap after fastest lap at the tail end of that race. But your provisional running order: Boof, Spike, MML, Ruprath, Dr. Zados, and Stark make up your top 5, who just pipped Gali, who is in P6. Cornetto come home 7th with Riemann in 8th. Angelo Civic, after a drive-through, came home 9th. M in 10th. Frazier just misses outside the points. Did pick up that fastest lap, though, in 11th. Wilco in 12th. Renovation in 13th. Clone Richie in 14th. Arnd came home 15th. And Elliott and False Tax were your only retirements of this race. Well, there you have it. The end of the PC Division R ways, the way to the start of the second half of the season officially, as round 6 is now underway for this race weekend. I hope you'll join us on both the FRS Motorsports and FRS Community channels for the racing going on tomorrow, starting at 7 p.m. UTC on both channels with Xbox Division 1 and PC Division 3. PC Division 3, yes. No, PC Division 1. My brain is totally not working. I even just said it there. And then we have PC Division 4 rounds out the Saturday running immediately after that. And then it is Sunday where we have PlayStation Division 1 and PC Division 3 starting at the same time, and PC Division 2 to wrap up the race weekend. But thank you for joining me once again, you guys. Look forward to seeing you, and I will have the stream info where it won't say Great Britain fixed for tomorrow's running. But I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.